Given the opportunity, I will always talk about the taxi trade, and in some respects, what is happening to us is reflected in society, especially economically. But it is true to say that the taxi trade is increasingly unique in that it operates within a very strict regulatory framework, and regulated frameworks are legal or policy mechanisms that exist to ensure standards-based practices. And there are valid, rational, arguable reasons why the taxi trade should be regulated, not least safety. And I think if you were put in charge of establishing a modern day taxi service today, then you preferably want your driver to have a knowledgeable understanding of the town or city he or she was operating in. You'd certainly want your vehicle to be exacting in its design to account for individual liberty, in particular those with mobility concerns, and that's quite a broad spectrum because it considers the elderly, the frail, the wheelchair dependent, those with sensory conditions, and even those with temporary disabilities such as a broken ankle. The rule of compellability should apply to be certain of reliability. And as a primarily municipal service, you'd want the fares to be regulated in some way to prevent rapacious price gouging and to ensure viability. And viability is a key point here. Of course, all of this comes with a massive caveat, but all of this is also applicable to the licensed taxi trade today. The problem, however, is that it comes at a cost or with added responsibilities, and that is why regulated industries such as the taxi trade aren't designed to compete within a free market system. Now, it was always easier for those on the peripheral to favour Uber over London's black cabs, especially given the politicians' penchant for protecting big business. But what has happened to the taxi trade has nothing to do with competing within a free market, and it was only down to the service that we were able to provide that we were able to ride the turbulent waves, because the fact is the corporate app market relied on growth that depended entirely on predatory subsidies. Certainly, if you have to subsidise a business with something like $30 billion, it cannot in any way, shape or form be considered a competitor in a free market system. So, what is the point I'm trying to make? Well, many of the irreversible risks that now threaten our trade originate from the rapid pace of industrial development, coupled with the proliferation of emerging technology and an adamance by TfL not to strengthen the regulated framework, which has predictably led to the exponential growth of private hire at the expense of the taxi trade. Now, if we keep all of that in mind, with the advent of Web3 and decentralization on the horizon, there will inevitably be further challenges coming down the line, probably sooner than what we expect. And no doubt the future of urban transportation will rely more heavily on technologies that could exacerbate asymmetries within the industry. So my question is, what do we do about it? A proper regulatory response would address such concerns, wouldn't it? But considering TfL even now is failing to impose the Supreme Court's decision on Uber because for some reason they don't see themselves as a regulator that enforces the law, then they can hardly be relied upon to apply the regulations to ensure fairness at some point in the future. It also demonstrates how technology can be used to develop market strategies that damage competition and set its own parameters without being considered to violate competition law. Now, I'm not particularly good at seeing what is around the corner, but neither is the trade. And conveniently for TfL, the system that has been in place since the beginning of time to represent the trade and effectively manage many of the issues we are now facing is done by using yesterday's tools and by the same people. And as a consequence, the necessary action is either not taken or is taken too late, whilst the problems the industry faces continues to grow and mutate. Even if we put aside the problems that could be caused by emerging tech, there are pressing issues that we need to face imminently, and these range from the rapid depletion in driver numbers and the unsustainable escalating cost of the vehicle. And that's before we even consider wider ideological impacts. Now, I get that it's all very well that I continue to point fingers, but if those I am pointing fingers at are unable to see what is smacking us between the eyes, and have no idea how to navigate our way out of it, then how can we rely on those same people to be prescient and recognise on our behalf the issues that are going to impact on us in the near future? The simple fact of the matter is this: if we are not looking ahead, the corporates, the politicians that have a penchant for big business, remember, and our detractors, especially those detractors who have agendas that are funded by taxpayers, which is a whole new scandal in itself, will be looking ahead on our behalf. And none of them, I guarantee you, none of them will have our best interests at heart. So, if nothing else, this is simply me renewing my call out to look at new ways of solutionising, where nothing is left off the table and where the industry can work collaboratively and effectively to make us more resilient to future challenges. Surely, nobody could be against that. I will certainly be interested in what you have to say, therefore I actively encourage you to give feedback either in the comment section below, or alternatively you can DM me on Twitter at Sean Paul Day. In the meantime, make hay whilst the sun shines.